Okay, we are live. A very big hello to you all out in the world. My name is Federico Ree, and this is Inspire Talk, and I'm your host for today. Now, I've got a very, very special and exciting guest today around the subject of food. In fact, today's episode or theme, I guess, is about how love and passion for food inspired an Aussie chef and restaurateur. And before I announce who the special guest is, I'd like to give you a bit of a taste or a bit of a background on where this has all come from and why I decided to interview this gentleman. Now, I've always been fascinated by food, especially because of my Italian heritage and family roots in the heart of Sicily. And without a doubt, the Mediterranean is an epicenter of culinary delights, and cooking per se is an integral part of everyday life and its culture. I've also been very inquisitive about the new age term restaurateur and how this profession is represented amongst popular TV shows like MasterChef. And for this reason, I was compelled to interview George Calombaris, who is joining me today to explore the journey he has taken as a chef, restaurateur, and serial entrepreneur within the food industry. It's a bit of a mouthful there, George. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you, mate. No, that's a very humbling introduction. So thank you so much. I'm humbled.
You're definitely a humble man yourself. And look, I think what I've read is just the beginning of your amazing career as a chef, as a restaurateur, and as an expert within the food industry, not just in Australia, but I'm sure globally. So I guess in today's hangout, I'd like to really pick your brain about your journey. I guess what inspired you to start your career in that field, and really sort of dwell into the entrepreneurial part to your career and really extract an understanding on what led you to establish so many great ventures in the food industry. And I guess we'll go from there. So I guess my first question is, from the very beginning of time, what kind of got you started in food and gastronomy?
But look, I think there was no, appetite to become a chef. I think what I was always surrounded around was great food, and mum, grandmother were brilliant cooks. Were brilliant cooks, my grandmother. But I had this love affair with eating. For me, eating is wonderful. I think it's one of the best pleasures in life. It's not just about what it does to us emotionally or physically, but it's what it does for us when we're sitting around a table with family, friends, or the power that it has is incredible. It can bring out every single emotion that is within us, and I guess that was the first bit, and I fell in love with that. And then obviously, the next bit was, what do I do to get closer to it? Well, become a chef.
Well, I can certainly relate to all that. Coming from the Mediterranean myself, and you coming from Cyprus, sorry. I guess you can't avoid food, and you can't avoid that influence that you have as a young child. So I guess looking at your earlier years, did you ever envisage a career in business and sort of become that serial entrepreneur that you became?
Look, I guess I was fortunate because Dad was in business, not in the food business, but in the independent supermarket area, and I guess I learned a lot about business through there, and a lot that I learned was just basic, I guess, respect, and I learned a lot about customer and value and humanity and the way we treat people, and I guess all those things that make a great business. I mean, there's so many books out there telling people how to run a business, but at the end of the day, I've always been a true believer that's the lessons are learned on the job, on the feet. Not be lucky to be part of that right from an early age in my life, and that's probably given me that appetite to step into that entrepreneurial, I guess, area.
Yeah, so I guess fast forward 20 or more years, you've established a number of exciting ventures like the Press Club, Hellenic Republic, Jimmy Grant, and so forth. Which one perhaps is the most closest to you in terms of your heart and what you love the most?
Look, the Press Club, obviously, it was my original. It's my baby. It's evolved and it will keep evolving. So I've got grand plans for that as well, even though it's only moved into its new sort of home 3 years ago. For me, that's was the incubator, the start of this sort of modern Greek idea that I had, and that stemmed out to now creating other brands, being the Hellenic brand or the Ghazi brand, the Jimmy Grant's brand. So yeah, look, you know, it's very exciting. You know, I never stop. I never stop dreaming. I think that's probably the most important lesson that I've learned is don't stop dreaming. And dreams don't get made when you're asleep. They get made during the day. You know, when I'm you know, looking out the window, sort of gazing into the wilderness.
Yeah, look, I think dreaming is certainly an important part, but I also know that there are a lot of dreamers out there that don't do anything, or is in get off their butt and actually make it happen. You've obviously made it happen. In terms of influencers and mentors in your life, how important are they for you? And were there any particular mentors in your life that really impacted the way you thought as an early child? And also today, you know, who are your mentors? You know, do you surround yourself?
I look at one person as an individual, as a mentor. You know, I'm not a big advocate of mentors. I look at it as life is an influence, and you know, I think that's probably the bit that I look at. Every bit of my life is I allow it to influence me, both in a positive and negative way. I mean, you know, I look at not only the people that work for me as they're massive influences, and I allow them to influence. I allow them to express themselves and be who they are. You know, I've always had I'm a true believer in wisdom in minds. You know, I'm not a dictator. I don't suffocate. I lead, but you know, I don't suffocate. No, I'm influenced by everything. I'm influenced. We're about to, you know, grow, you know, 20 acres out in the country of ingredients for the press club. You know, I'm influenced by the seasons. I'm influenced by travel. I'm influenced by everything you can think of that makes life, you know. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
I guess it's a holistic approach to your success, and absorbing, you know, from the outside world, from the people, from the experiences, seems to be, I guess, your formula to success, the way I interpret that. And that's sort of a wonderful philosophy to business and to life per se. So your career is very diversified. You know, you've been a chef, or you are a chef.
Yep.
You know, you're also a restaurateur. You're a TV personality, etc. Which one of those, I guess, you relate to the most and enjoy the most nowadays?
Oh, look, you know, I think the one thing I will not let go is that I'm a cook and a chef, and you know, I'm still very in touch in the kitchen. I do, you know, 2 to 3 services a week at the press club. You know, that's the only kitchen you'll find me in terms of in my whites with my chefs. But you know, so that's because my belief is that legitimizes why I'm on TV and critiquing, because I'm being critiqued every single minute of the day. Look, I love TV. I never looked for it. I never wanted it. It came to me, and I respected it and took it with open arms. And you know, I'm enjoying it, and I love what I do because I get to talk about what I love. But I know also that's got a use by date, and that will come to an end. And I've always accepted that. And you know, I've been privileged enough to be on, you know, an influencer, that thing called MasterChef, that has touched the hearts of, you know, over 190 countries around the world. And you know, hopefully, that's my little legacy that I'll leave in terms of my industry. So I'm very lucky. I've got my, you know, and on top of that, you know, I'm part of the expanding and running of this business called Made Establishment that encompasses lots of brands, lots of restaurants, but more importantly, lots of people, because that's for me the most important thing. The people that work for us are for me my everything. More important than the customers, because
sure,
the customers, it's their job to look after the customers. It's my job to look after the staff.
So just staying on the term restaurateur, from my perspective, it's a fairly new age term, or perhaps one used more commonly these days. And we've come up with a lot of terms that are somewhat affiliated to the word entrepreneur. So restaurateur, entrepreneur, mompreneur, astropreneur, etc. What is your understanding of the word restaurateur, and is it somewhat different to you know, to being a businessman in the world of cooking and so forth?
Look, I mean, I'm sure there's a definitive answer and a classic answer of what the typical restaurateur is. But for me, a restaurateur is someone that is in everything and understands everything about the business. Every nuance, idea, and action, and place, and product, and dish, and customer, and staff member are all part of being a restaurateur. And if that person believes they're a restaurateur and doesn't want to, understand that they've probably got to clean the toilet bowl, well, then they're not going to succeed. The success of being a restaurateur is, and I'm still trying to work it out, can I tell you that, even after 10 years in the industry. I believe it's undoubtedly being 100% committed to detail. And if you're not, you're going to go broke. It's very simple.
Interesting how you've slightly twisted the word around, although there are two ways of describing the word, restaurateur and restaurateur. And I've done a bit of research on that term, and I still don't know the distinction between each one, but I guess it's the same thing.
Like macaron.
Okay, I guess that's just a cultural thing, is it? Depends what part of the world you're from. In terms of your formula to success, or I guess to achieve success in your industry, between talent, education, and connections. And I know that you've touched upon people as being, important to you, and obviously having the right connections. But talent, education, and connections, how do you rate those three in your career or in your industry?
I think it's about a process. I mean, the first and foremost, I say it all the time, you want to be in my industry, you need to it's like a pilot. You need to get hours under your belt, and you cannot learn this industry 9 till 5. It's not a 9 till 5 business. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business. The first 10, 15 years of my life, there's a reason why I'm 38 with varicose veins in my legs, because I've stood behind a kitchen bench for, 14-hour days. And, and I guess that first and foremost has given me the solid foundation to then go and allow myself to connect with people. And look, yeah, you need a bit of talent. I mean, I'm sure you've got to have that inner burning fire and desire to be able to wake up every day and go home leave when it's dark, go home when it's dark, and on your day off you're sleeping, and it's you've got to have that stamina and that sort of inner desire to be successful. So talent, yeah, it's important, but education is important. Knowledge is power. I say it all the time. The more you know, the better. But then, yeah, you've got to be connected, and the only way to connect is by your actions and what you do. If you're not a good chef and you want to be connected, you're not going to get connected, because my talking is done by what I put on a plate and what we do in terms of how we serve the restaurant. It's not on how well I speak, because I'll be quite honest with you. I'm a short, sort of slightly overweight, tubby little Greek guy, Aussie Greek guy. I'm definitely not going to get down. I'm definitely not going to be getting on the Gucci catwalk in any day soon. And my English is pretty bad. I can't read or write that well. But if you ask me to take a lamb and bone it out, I could do that in 7 minutes, because it's by doing millions of them and peeling millions of onions and cutting carrots and doing, just like a great tennis player, they serve and volley 1,000,000 times before they get good. David Beckham never knew how to curl a ball around a wall until he did it millions of times. While everyone was sleeping, he was kicking the ball. When everyone was sleeping, I was cooking, and that was very important to me.
So I guess there's certainly a common thread amongst industries, professions, to go from the ordinary to the extraordinary. So it's, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know how to get yourself out there, how to connect, and also maybe education being part of that process, your chances of super success is somewhat restricted and limited. So Thanks for that, George. In terms of the challenges that you've had to deal with or face over the years, especially in the earlier startup years, and look, we've got an audience that are very much in the startup phase and aspiring entrepreneurs looking at you thinking, oh, how can I be that next successful chef, whatever. But what are the realities of wanting a career of this nature? Looking at it from the beginning.
The realities are simple. I mean, the unfortunate thing about the platform of television, social media, everything's accessible now for a lot of young kids, and that's great. It's fabulous. What it really wasn't in my early days of my apprenticeship. You didn't really know what chefs were doing around the world until you bought their cookbook from Amazon and waited 3 months for it to arrive. And that was if you could afford a $150 cookbook. I think now, so the negative of everything being so quick is that they want to get to that level quick. Great bread takes 3-4 days to make. To be an ordinary cook, yeah, you can do that, but to be extraordinary, it takes time and perseverance and it's being able to have that sort of impeccable sense of balance and being able to walk a tightrope and know that you can, you've got to go out on a limb. I say it all the time, and stretch yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you have to deal with it, and put yourself in a place where it's hard, not where it's easy and you're not being stretched or pushed. I know
Absolutely.
It's like that in my kitchen every day at Press Club. I look at those core group of boys and girls. They want to be pushed, and if we're not, we're cheating them.
Thank you. Now, before we move on to your 3 principles of success or your philosophy to success, I just want to invite the audience to submit questions on via SMS on 0408510378, and we'll receive those, or I'll use those responses in just a moment for George. So George, you do talk about your 3 principles of success, hinging around courage, pride, and sacrifice, and there are also a few other key elements, but around courage, pride, and sacrifice, why those 3?
I think because they're sort of, I don't look at what I do as a job. I'm not a jobber. This is my life, and I wake up in the morning not going to work. Wake up in the morning living my life, and those philosophies are super important to me because I don't know. I think I look at life not in a sort of a daggy spiritual way, but in a spiritual way, in a meaningful way. And courage is something that we all need to have. Pride we should always have, even though when we'll make mistakes. And I always say it, I've done some silly things, but it's the bit where you stand up and take action on your mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, look, it's good to see that you have your own philosophy, and I have also my own philosophy hinging on, say, passion, love, and simply hard work. How important is it for anyone pursuing an entrepreneurial career to really have their own philosophy to success and have it ingrained, I guess, in their DNA?
Yeah, look, you know what? I mean, I think more, people talk about writing business plans. We write cultural plans, and I write, and my plan constantly changes within myself. My beliefs constantly change, but there's a core that runs through the middle of it. And, I don't like to sit still. I believe when something's good, we need to break it. And, I'm not the one to, if it ain't broken, don't change it. Well, I disagree. I think, in life, you've got to have some certain beliefs and you've got to stick strong with them. And they're the bits that can also excite the people that work for you.
Excellent, George.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have your own beliefs.
Absolutely. Before I answer one of the questions that has just come through from the audience, I guess one of those elements is sacrifice, and with work-life balance, I'm sure there's been a lot of sacrifice over the years. How do you, day to day manage your family life, your work life around your passions
I'll just clarify one thing. When people talk to me about work-life balance, I don't understand that work-life balance. I mean, and that's where I say, you know, I make my life, my what I do is my life. And yes, I've got 2 kids and they're growing, but I make them part of what I do. And I don't shy away from it. I'm proud of it. And, you know, people that, you surround yourself around people that are like-minded. And look, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, I get, you know, we all need downtime. We all got our own little way to, you know, reset ourselves, to re-energize ourselves. But at the end of the day, if I'm not at the restaurant, if I'm not in the head office, if I'm not with staff, I'm either watching things that are related to food, reading about food, talking to people about food, or eating. You know, I don't go on holidays to take pictures of the Eiffel Tower. Couldn't care less.
Yeah. So I guess integrating.
Restaurant, you know.
So I guess compared to the traditional mentality of the 9 to 5 work, where you go to an office, come back home, and then spend time with your family, I guess as entrepreneurs doing what we love, it really is about integrating our day-to-day activities with family life all around us. And I guess that's kind of the way I interpret it.
Yeah, look, it's always going to be difficult. And I know one day, you know, my son might turn around and say to me, geez, Dad, you didn't spend as much time with me as you probably could have. But that's okay. And I know that time will come where it will be 100% time. But at the moment, you know, there's a plan. And, you know, at the moment, I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky to have surrounding myself around really great people that are also like-minded, but also relieving pressure off me to be able to, you know, take my son to school on his first day. Those sort of monumental, important days, I need to be there. And my belief is, you know, oh yeah, I took the day off to spend the day with my child. Well, but actually, what did you do? You know, were you switched on? Were you actually devoting 12 hours? I mean, for me, I'd rather have one great hour where it's intense and wonderful than 12 hours of rubbish. So yeah, that's how I look.
It's about focus and quality. Good insight there, George. So I've got a question from Bjorn. His question is, what's your biggest motivator to still be in the culinary industry after all these years? And what do you love the most about it? I guess you've answered the question somewhat, but I guess just for Bjorn's sake, what can you say in a few words?
I'm obsessed by it. I'm a bit like I don't know, I'm a junkie, so to speak, in terms of hospitality. I love it. I love the instant gratification that food. That, you know, I've got a mate that's a barrister. He could be in a court battle for 24 months and lose. I get to every day put something on a plate and instantly see if they love it or they don't. And that is a wonderful position that I'm in, and I'm very, very lucky.
So Bjorn, I guess the answer is obsession. So the next question is, Mark, how challenging is it to be the next celebrity chef in Australia?
Yeah, look, you need to have a point of difference. I mean, you know, if you don't, well, then why would people want to watch you? You need credibility, and I've always said it. If you think you're going to get a gig on TV just because you're good looking and you sort of can fry a steak, well, you're not. It's not going to be successful. It's about substance and soul. It's about integrity. It's about, you know, having fundamentals. You know, no one can take away from me my last 20 years. They're there, and I did them, but I also don't. You know, I'm only as good as the last dish I cooked last night, and you know, I've still got a long way to go.
So around the question of point of difference, if there was one little tip you would provide, Mark, about being different, maybe that you haven't seen out there at the moment, what would come to mind first?
Oh, look, you know, you find who you are. I mean, for me, growing up in a Greek household, I found that was my edge, because I knew it, because I lived in it. So then that's the bit that I've become. You know, you know, people know George. He cooks modern Greek. You know, and that's who I am, and I'm proud of it. But you've got to be authentic. If you're not authentic, and you just, you know, you've changed your name from, I don't know, Lauren Hardy to something else just because you want to be a healthy person because it
Yep.
sounds good, you're not going to be successful.
Okay, thanks for that, George. So, Mark, for you, the answer is having a point of difference and authenticity. One last question from Stefania. Nowadays, do you feel more like a chef or entrepreneur?
I'm a chef.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I'm a chef. I was born one and I'll die one.
Okay. So, George, look, I'm conscious of time. We've got 5 more minutes.
Yep.
I've got one key question to ask you, and that is around change, or what could you do as a key influencer in your industry to make the world a better place? So it's a very philosophical question.
You know what? Everyone's looking for how to do the next. Everyone's looking at how we can. It's about just doing what we do every single day. And my bit is I cook with whole food, real food. I'm not into mass manufactured, bleach refined, and rubbish just because we can sell it cheap to mass market. So I think it's about living it every single day. Living it every single day means, when you're at the lights and someone needs to get in, just let them in. There are little points in your life that are unwritten that make you a better person and make, you're making a difference by helping that person. And all the other stuff, we do fundraisers, we donate money, I donate time, but that's just stuff that, happens. But it's everything else that we do in and around our day to make a difference from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep.
Great. Look, just to wrap up, George, I've sort of come up with George's formula to success based on what you've said, and my interpretation to that as well is never stop dreaming. Leadership is key. Be an influencer. People is everything. Work 24/7, or pretty much love what you do and work hard. Stretch yourself. Have a self-belief, obsession, point of difference, authenticity, and make a difference. So that's George's formula to success. I'd like to thank you a million times for your insights, George. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Short and sweet. So we'll go off air in just a moment. So just hang in there. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.